Getting really hot.
Yes.
It's definitely like we're in the summer, man.
Yeah, and I'm getting really hot about one of my favorite plays being appropriated by John Bolton.
Yeah,
I love it. So you guys,
temperature is rising by the moment.
Zero opening banter. We got to go make fun of Meghan McCain. Well, no problem. Guys, I just can't emphasize enough. John Bolton is a sociopath, and I've been reading. You can read this book online. Please don't buy John Bolton's book. And as I say, in addition to Donald Trump, I totally believe, praising the Uyghur concentration camps to President Xi's face and doing nothing about that, praising it. He himself said, actually, Trump said the other day, I could raise that issue. We were in the middle of trade talks. And, just generally being disgusting and corrupt. Obviously, we all believe that. We don't need a John Bolton book. But there's other moments in the book where it's Donald Trump is the good guy here. He's the one telling John basically like, we cannot do, and let there be no mistake. Donald Trump has accelerated U.S. militarism across the globe. Drone strikes are up. Civilian casualties are up. He dropped the mother of all bombs, it's called, early on in Afghanistan. And even some troop withdrawals have actually been really redeployments. Like, well, sure, we won't have a phased out withdrawal from Syria. We actually will up-tempo the strikes, betray the Kurds, and then maybe redeploy some of those same troops to Saudi. So I always just need that disclaimer that John Bolton is not good. And I mean, he might be one of the most just completely not good people in American public life, a vicious warmonger, and he wanted interventions in Iran, North Korea, and Venezuela. Now, what I am not mad at John Bolton about is using, apparently, I've never seen Hamilton, never listened to the soundtrack, but apparently, guys, John Bolton's book borrows from the Hamilton musical and its title. Is that right?
News to me correct. As well. Yeah.
Oh,
what is the title of his book? What's the title of his book?
Room where it happened.
In or where it happened. Okay, where it happened.
Room where it happened? Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well, somebody is very aware of this, and somebody does not like it. And that somebody's father was named John McCain.
What Kim Jong-un was trying to do to him. He was playing him.
Ambassador Bolton, your book is the title of a key song from the huge hit Hamilton that's sung by Aaron Burr. Lin-Manuel Miranda, the creator of Hamilton, has vocally criticized your use of the title, tweeting about someone, quote, who borrows your song to title to write a cash-in book, who writes a cash-in book when they could have testified before Congress. Do you understand that the meaning of that song is, do you understand why it's a song about someone being unprincipled, not principled? And do you understand why it's insulting to those of us that are fans of Hamilton to co-opt art from Lin-Manuel Miranda for your own political purposes?
Well, I think you've mischaracterized what was done. This title was derived by a lot of discussions about what it might be. You know, the phrase "in the room" is a phrase used in Washington 1,000 times a day. So it's a fair use, and I think it summarizes what we were trying to do.
Do you understand why fans of Hamilton and Lin-Manuel Miranda would be angry at its use, though?
Look, I'm a fan of Hamilton too, and the exact story that song was predicated on was the critical deal where Hamilton, negotiating with Jefferson and Monroe, got the Southerners to agree for a federal assumption of all the state debts in exchange for the capital being put on the Potomac. That is one of the original compromises of American government, one of the most important things that happened. So I don't see why people should be upset about the depiction of that event, where to this date nobody really does exactly know what happened at that dinner in the room where that compromise was made.
Sonny. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Can we get a follow-up? I don't think you're taking Lin-Manuel's property rights in
I mean, she's
Hamilton
honestly,
things.
she's upset about, the intellectual property of Hamilton. By the way, I have to say, I mean, I don't know anything about Hamilton, or I mean, I know something about Hamilton, but I haven't watched or listened to it. But I mean, that part of what was confusing me was that phrase, like, in the room, is just like the quintessential Washington, like,
right.
I was in the room with the principal. Like,
yeah,
that is like the most. I'm surprised that hasn't been used in other DC memoirs.
Yeah, and I'm surprised I'm coming down on Bolton's side to be.
Yeah, no, John Bolton. That is actually the most clean John Bolton win.
I think actually a bigger problem is what Lin-Manuel did to how people understand Hamilton, which like not entirely great guy, and we shouldn't just mythologize him. For instance, I'm more worried about that than if John Bolton can cash in on Lin-Manuel's brilliant brain.
Yeah, speaking of brains, it's such a great look into Meghan McCain's brain as well. Like this cultural appropriation by the other chicken hawk who's not her dad, basically.
I don't even understand. I mean, that's just, I mean, but it's that, but like Meghan McCain is really the best because, it's like in a conversation, like so many conversations that happen today. And actually, Brianna Joy Gray wrote a great piece about cultural appropriation in current affairs a couple years ago, where she really made very smart distinctions. But it's like, I basically could see Meghan McCain simultaneously like defending like, the one universal example that everybody who isn't a complete asshole, like her being like, I'm from Arizona. Why can't I wear Navajo headwear?
Oh,
like, I know it's a sacred ceremony to you, but maybe it's hey, I like to drink Jello shots. My dad actually, he helped dump, uranium on the reservations and on people like objected to it and such, but it was actually good for the casinos. So I'm going to wear a feather. And everybody would say, Meghan, you're being an absolute asshole. Please don't do that. But then she could take a concept that has already become so ludicrous in so many deployments and actually push it to the most incredible reaches, which is basically like...
Mr. Bolton, you use the word beltway in your book. Did you know that Lin-Manuel Miranda also uses that in his play? Do you feel that you owe an apology to the fans of Hamilton?
Yeah. John Lin. Yeah. There should never be another Hamilton bio written. That is his intellectual property. It's like, excuse me, professor, I know that you are doing like additional research and such on Hamilton, but a lot of us really liked Lin-Manuel Miranda's play. And so do you feel you're undermining that? That's what I love about Meghan McCain is she's very like front loaded. Like she knows what she's upset about. And so she kind of like hits you with a couple of like, that was
stop avoiding the question.
And but then it just sort of like stops. Like she doesn't know how to like complete it. So there's a lot of like front loading, and then it's just sort of like, so what would you, and you took his play and that was his intellectual property. And a lot of us are concerned.
We're wondering why you did that.
Why would you?
The early momentum of what she's saying and her rage should be able to carry through any sort of follow-up too.
Why did you do that to us? And it's funny, like, the way she's like, John explains it once, and then she follows up like, yeah, but back to the matter at hand. What about the fans like me who are upset about this? What do you tell us?
You literally get, and again, John Bolton is like notoriously like impatient, and like he's just awful, and it's just so funny that you could see him being like almost like. That's as human as a totally inhuman threat to all sentient life is going to be, which is John Bolton. And he's like, just sort of patiently like, well, that's actually pretty well-known nomenclature in DC. It sort of refers to being in a place, just kind of walks her through it. It's like, yeah, but that's my favorite play.
Yeah, well, he's a poet, and you're just a big meanie.
Yeah. He's a poet, and you didn't even get to bomb Iran, which my dad wanted. So whatever.